What happens when you try to force the river to follow a path that isn't its own? There's a subtle, almost invisible line between effort that builds and stubbornness that traps. This is the subtle difference between persisting and resisting, an essential secret in the journey of awakening consciousness. Often, in our search for self-knowledge and inner transformation, the ego cloaks itself in virtue, turning persistence into a trap. But how do you discern the voice of the soul that propels you from the cry of the mind that imprisons you? Today, we will delve into the depths of this distinction, revealing where silent resistance camouflages itself and how true presence can free your path. At some point in life, we all find ourselves at a crossroads, to persist or to give up. However, there's a deeper layer to this question. It's not just about continuing or stopping, but about how and why we continue. Life, with its pains and challenges, often invites us to an incessant struggle. Perhaps you are going through a moment where everything seems meaningless, an existential void that drives you to seek answers, to persist in solutions that never seem to arrive. It's natural to feel this anguish, this pain of empty effort, this sensation that, despite all your commitment, something isn't flowing. This inner search for relief can lead us down tortuous paths, where resistance disguises itself as persistence, trapping our soul in patterns that no longer serve us. Our intention today is to offer a lens of clarity so you can identify these patterns and reconnect with the wisdom of a persistence that comes from presence, not scarcity. Often, the pain that inhabits us is that of empty effort, that feeling of rowing against the current, of insisting on paths that refuse to flow. We confuse struggle with purpose, resilience with blind resistance. Stoicism, for example, invites us to discern between what is within our control and what is not. Seneca, in his Letters to Lucilius, does not preach inaction, but the wisdom of focusing energy where it can truly bear fruit, and serenely accepting what transcends our will. How many times do we find ourselves exhausted, not by genuine and directed effort, but by stubbornness disguised as virtue? The body hears everything your soul whispers, and the fatigue we feel can be a sign that we are in a mode of struggle, of silent resistance, and not of flow. This silent pain can be an invitation to stop and ask ourselves, is this effort guided by my deepest purpose, or is it a repetition of unconscious patterns of suffering? Buddhism teaches us about attachment, the root of suffering. Insisting on what doesn't flow, on what has already completed its cycle, is a form of attachment to an idea, to a result, to an identity. It is the ego that refuses to let go, fearing the void, fearing the unknown that non-control can reveal. But, like the candle that remains lit in silence, true persistence is born from an internal source of calm and clarity, not from a desperation for control. Inner transformation requires us to accept what hurts and to ask ourselves, what if the pain that confuses you today is, in fact, a language your soul is trying to guide you with? And it is precisely in this dynamic of struggle and surrender that a profound paradox emerges, a secret that can unleash more power than any control we try to impose. It seems counterintuitive. How can surrendering be an act of power? Our culture often glorifies control, brute force, domination. But true strength, the one spiritual masters of various traditions point to, lies in active surrender. It is not passivity. It is not giving up the journey. It is, as Taoism teaches us through Lao Tzu, the wisdom of non-forcing. It is like water that, with its softness, sculpts the hardest rock not by force, but by persistence and by surrendering to the natural flow. This is the persistence of presence, which recognizes the natural rhythm of life, the invisible intelligence that operates beyond our limited plans. This surrender is an act of profound self-knowledge and courage. It implies letting go of the ego's reins, which yearns to control every outcome, to predict every step. Active surrender is the ability to do our part with discernment and then to trust. Buddha teaches us about non-attachment not as a lack of care, but as liberation from the illusion that we can hold what is impermanent. When we release the shackles of control, we unleash an energy that was previously trapped in silent resistance and anxiety. It is in this fertile void that true inspiration emerges, synchronicities manifest, and the path reveals itself with a clarity that exhaustive effort could never bring. You are not broken. You are in transformation. And with each conscious surrender, you reconnect with your essential self, with a soul that knows the way without needing ready-made maps. However, one must be attentive, for even in the spiritual quest, the ego finds subtle ways to camouflage itself, transforming persistence into a trap that distances us from the truth. The ego, that master of disguise. In the spiritual journey, it is particularly cunning, dressing itself in the most beautiful garments of light and purpose. The spiritualized ego does not seek truth. It seeks validation, power, or an escape from pain. It insists, not from a soul's calling, but from a hidden desire for control, for ready answers, or to belong to a group, confusing this search with genuine persistence. The danger lies in blind persistence, where the incessant pursuit of more light or more knowledge becomes, in fact, a sophisticated form of resistance to the present, to pain, to emptiness, instead of a true awakening of consciousness. How to identify this trap? Subtle signs may emerge: an impatience with the process, the need to appear evolved, difficulty dealing with failures or setbacks, or even a veiled judgment of those who do not follow the same path. These are unconscious patterns of suffering that the ego uses to protect itself, to avoid the vulnerability of true surrender. Stoicism, again, offers us a compass, the practice of self-observation and constant questioning of our motivations. Marcus Aurelius invites us to examine our intentions, to see if the action stems from virtue or from the desire for recognition. It is not about abandoning persistence, but about purifying it, making it arise from a place of presence and humility. Silent resistance is a noise the ego creates so as not to face the inner silence that reveals its true face. And it is in silence that the soul whispers to us, all healing begins with the acceptance of what hurts. And it is when we allow ourselves to silence this noise and confront the discomfort of not knowing that a new portal opens, a void that, paradoxically, reveals the path. We live in a society that abhors emptiness, that teaches us to fill it at all costs, with information, with activities, with distractions. However, the wisdom of masters like Eckhart Tolle points us to the paradox. It is in the fertile void, in not knowing, that true clarity manifests. To allow yourself not to have all the answers, not to have absolute control, is an act of courage that opens a portal to inner transformation. The void is not absence. It is the womb of the invisible, the space where the soul can finally breathe and intuition can guide. Resistance to the void is one of the ego's greatest traps. It fears dissolution, the loss of its constructed identity. But when we allow ourselves to silence the mental noise and embrace the discomfort of not knowing, something profound happens. Zen Buddhism invites us to the practice of beginner's mind, a total openness to what is, without preconceptions or the need to label. It is in this state of receptivity that spiritual truth reveals itself, not as an intellectual answer, but as an intuitive insight. The river that teaches effortless fluidity also shows us that, sometimes, the path is revealed not by an active and insistent search, but by patient observation and a surrender to the current. This is the essence of contemplation, allowing life to reveal itself in its own time and rhythm. In the end, true strength does not lie in incessant struggle, but in the ability to act from a place of deep calm, where the persistence of being manifests as a genuine force. True persistence does not shout, does not exhaust itself. It whispers, acts with discernment, and is born from a place of deep calm. This is the persistence of being, which manifests in the calm of conscious action. In a noisy world, where we are constantly bombarded by stimuli, inner silence becomes a source of genuine strength. It is in this space of presence that the mind quietens, and the voice of the soul becomes audible, guiding each step with wisdom and purpose. Silence is not absence, it is presence without noise. Ancient practices, such as Buddhist meditation, invite us to cultivate this inner silence, not as an escape, but as a return to our essence. It is here that reconnection happens, where true inner strength reveals itself. Zen Buddhism teaches us that the most effective action often emerges from stillness, from non-mind. It's not about not doing, but about doing from a place of fullness, and not of scarcity or resistance. Ethics, in this context, becomes a natural extension of presence. When we are in alignment with our essential being, our actions reflect compassion and authenticity. The candle that remains lit in silence is the perfect metaphor for persistence that springs from a deep and true awakening of consciousness. By discerning between persisting and resisting, you not only redefine your relationship with effort, but open space for a profound inner transformation. Remember, not all pain is punishment. Some pains are teachers, inviting you to release silent resistance and embrace the conscious flow that life offers. To conclude, a simple invitation, a daily practice to cultivate this persistence of being. Reserve a few minutes of your day for inner silence. Sit in a quiet place, close your eyes, and just observe your breathing. Don't try to control, just notice the air entering and leaving. If your mind begins to resist, observe that resistance without judgment, like a passing cloud. Allow yourself to be the observer of this experience. In this space of contemplation, ask your soul, what truly wishes to flow in my life, and what do I insist on holding on to? Let the answer emerge, without haste, coming from your fertile void. And what if the pain you feel today is the portal to the life you've always sought? If something within you calmed or awakened upon hearing these words, allow yourself to continue. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to walk with us on this path of fertile silence, discoveries, and reconnection. Leave your experience in the comments. Your sharing is also a seed of healing for other hearts. And to continue expanding this field of presence, we suggest the video eye in the card. May it be a gentle breath on your journey. Peace and light.